Storytime with Grena. Hello and welcome to Storytime with Grena. I'm Grena Lawson and I'm here to bring you stories, all sorts of stories. But before we dive into today's story, let's find out if the previous one was real or fake. I know you are all dying to know. And the answer is... it's true. It is a real story about my very first band. And yeah, that was our first gig. What a nice way to begin, right? Today's story is called Hot But a Psycho. And yes, I know that you are singing Ava Max's song mentally. This story is basically about one of the craziest dates I've ever had. And that's saying a lot, because I've had quite a bunch of crazy dates in my life. Yeah, the dating apps can be heaven, but they can also be hell on earth. And unfortunately, as a lesbian, there are not many other options nowadays. Because yes, I am just like the meme, both gay and European. So thanks to one of those dating apps, I met this lady. She was using a different name on the app, but she introduced herself as Ilsa. She seemed like fun. And, well, I live in a rather small town, so unfortunately there are not that many opportunities, so I said, yeah, why not, let's go on a date. Oh boy, did I regret it afterwards. We met in a bar near my place, and the first thing she said to me, right the moment she saw me, was, "Oh, you're very short. I thought you would be taller." Yes. To be fair, I am pretty tiny. But still, that's not a nice thing to say to someone you've just met. I really had to hold myself back from saying something like, "Wow, and you're very observant," or "and I expected you to be hotter." But, unlike other people, I am very polite, so I simply laughed it off. She also told me a lot of stories about how she entered the country basically illegally. No judging. I mean, I know how bad things are in some parts of the world, so who can blame her? But yeah, she told me a few stories, like how she had lived in the subway at the beginning, how she ended up being taken in by another immigrant woman and taking care of her kid to survive and all of that. She did say something pretty interesting. Something along the lines of, yeah, you know, sometimes to survive, you have to be an asshole before anyone tries to take advantage of you. And okay, well, she might be right about that. My first thought when I heard that was, God, what am I getting myself into? Well, it gets even better after that. She lived in a tiny village near my hometown, so I was asking her about the village, if she liked living there, what it was like. And just to make conversation, I asked, "So do you live there on your own?" And she goes, "No, I live with my boyfriend." Of course, on her profile there was nothing about a boyfriend or polyamory or whatever. But even so, she goes, "Oh, well, it's fine, because I only found out that I liked women like a year ago, and he's cool with it. We have an open relationship." Some of the comments she made afterwards made it pretty clear that there was no open relationship. And also, the impression I got was that she was in a very unhappy relationship and either trying to find a way out or, I don't know, maybe even trying to get her revenge on her boyfriend. I mean, she would say things like, "Yeah, as long as he's got sports on TV, he doesn't give a fuck about me." Anyway, it wasn't my place to judge her. So, okay, we continued talking. And we moved on to work, because apparently she had had many different jobs. In fact, she had quite an interesting job. She was like a gardener. And yeah, that's kind of unusual for me. I mean, I had never met anyone who worked with plants. So, yeah, we were talking about the different jobs we had had in our lives. And she mentioned that a few years before she had been working in the airport in a souvenir shop. And she said, oh, the job was fine. It was a lot of fun. I really got along with my co-workers and the customers were okay. The only problem with that job was my boss. She was such an asshole. But it's okay because one night I slashed her tires. Anyway, after this peak example of first date talk, it was clear to me that I wanted to get out of there as soon as possible and that I didn't want to see her again. But with people like that, you don't want to get in trouble. Therefore, I decided to make an excuse. I told her that I was expected for dinner. And she goes, oh, where do you live? I could drop you off. My car is parked right here. Of course, there was no way in the hells I was getting in a car with her, let alone let her find out where I lived. So I told her that I was meeting my friends in the town center, and it's hell to park, so no need for you to take me there. It's very kind of you, but no thanks. Of course, I never saw her again. And I actually told her that I had gotten back together with my ex and therefore couldn't go on more dates. She was attractive, and I have to admit that she was pretty entertaining. But I don't think either of those things could make up for everything else. Now, it is up to you to decide. Did this crazy date ever happen? Or did I make it all up? Well, either way, you will find out in the next episode of Storytime with Grena. See you next week!